Since 1966, this is NBC4's News Conference with Conan Nolan.
On this edition of News Conference, we take a break from the red, white, and blue this weekend for a different color scheme, that of cardinal and gold. While summer may be a quiet time for some, not at the University of Southern California, which is in the middle of a building boom, such as a new residential and retail development called the USC Village north of campus. And now new plans for a massive biotechnology research corridor centered in Boyle Heights, adjacent to the university's Keck School of Medicine. All this from a campus once known primarily for film studies and football. Now an elite institution of international standing, made up of Nobel laureates, high-profile donors, and a fiercely competitive undergraduate admissions policy. We talk with USC President CL Max Nikias about the state of his university, the role it plays as LA's largest private employer, and what it plans to do with a massive $6 billion fundraising campaign, which, when announced, was the highest of any university in the nation. Good morning and welcome to News Conference. We hope you had a wonderful July 4th weekend. CL Max Nikias is the president of the University of Southern California, the 11th president of that institution since its founding 135 years ago. Thank you very much for joining us.
Connor, thank you for inviting me to your show.
People would assume that summer is downtime for a university. That's factually not correct.
That is not true. Actually, summertime is the time where we do a lot of planning for the future.
Let's talk about the state of the university. What is the state of USC?
Well, USC today is a very hot school. We just received 53,000 applications for 2,700 slots in our freshman class. So everybody wants to come to USC. So we are on a very solid financial ground, and that's what makes it very exciting for all of us.
Very different school than it was 20 years ago when you arrived.
Oh, absolutely. It's a very, very different school, and academically, it's already in the club of the elite institutions.
What happened?
Well, the USC enjoyed an enormous ascent in the last 20 years. Steve Samble was a very transformative president for the university. And I had the opportunity 20 years ago to come as a professor, 24 years ago, as a matter of fact, to come as a professor exactly the same year that Steve Samble came as president. And I have to tell you, I was part of the ride under his leadership, and look at where USC is today.
Some have suggested that Steve Samble actually saved the university, that there was a downturn in the 90s. There was one article I was reading where they actually considered moving the campus to Orange County.
Some people said that USC should consider it, but Steve Samble never did. And when he came, we had the riots, we had the fires, if you remember, then the Northridge earthquake, the cutbacks of the aerospace industry. So that was probably one of the lowest points of the city of Los Angeles.
Now,
but look, we came out of it.
You certainly have, and when you announced this campaign, this $6 billion fundraising effort, it was by far eclipsed anything any university has done. Now, Stanford and Harvard have put together their own project.
Right.
$6 billion. You're two-thirds of the way there, from what I understand.
Right.
What is the money for?
The money is for student scholarships to make higher education affordable. The money is for our research and education programs, is for improving the infrastructure of the university. So the money gets to be invested in academic excellence.
There's some who've suggested that this is the private, you have private institutions, yours not the only one, that are becoming more like corporations. USC Inc., as opposed to USC, a school of higher learning.
No, that is not true. We are an academic institution. However, fiscally, you have to be very, very responsible. So in many ways, the way we run the university, we run it with a lot of fiscal responsibility that comes with it. And that's why, but on the other hand, you don't want to lose the fact that you are an academic institution.
Right, but some would say that there is no fiscal responsibility in higher education because the cost of higher education eclipses the cost of inflation by about 7 or 8%. We continually hear problems with student debt. The amount of student debt is astronomical. The average student that graduates from USC has how much debt?
It's below the national average.
Which
it's
is about
$23,000 for USC. That's the average student loan debt. And I should tell you that the default rate for our graduates on the loans is less than 1.6%. And one more thing is that 5 years ago when I became president, the financial aid pool of the university was $180 million. We did a major restructuring in the administrations. Today, and we redirected resources, so today we have the largest financial aid pool in the country. $300 million per year from our own resources goes to student scholarships.
Student scholarships. So those who pay full ride, who are of means, pay the way for those who can't afford it.
Well, that's not really true because the fundraising campaign that we have in place generates a lot of the money for student scholarships.
So a tuition for 1 year would be what, 52,000, somewhere like that?
No, it says 48,000.
48,000. How much of that covers the actual cost of the education for that student?
Actually, even for the families that pay the full tuition, they get a subsidy of 12% because of the philanthropic giving that comes into the university to improve the infrastructure.
Still, you're part of a national conversation that deals
Right.
with the future of higher education. You have the governor of California. You don't have to worry about him. Janet Napolitano at the UC does.
Right.
He says, he's talking about online education.
Right.
He says the university has to change its mission to more of one of teaching as opposed to research. He's also talking about a 3-year degree. Let's start with that. Do you need a 4-year degree for many of the academic, for much of the curriculum that you offer at USC?
As an academic, I will tell you we do. We have to be very, very careful when we start lowering the academic credentials, all the academic standards for cost reasons. We have to be very, very careful with that. On the other hand, when it comes to online education that you pointed out, we have our own online education model that focuses only on professional master's degree programs and executive education.
Why?
We don't do online for undergraduate students.
Why is that?
If you want to get an undergraduate USC degree, you must be a full-time student on campus because it isn't just the learning in the classroom, it's also the learning and the experience outside the classroom. Ages 18 to 22 are the most transformative on an individual. And therefore, we believe in the residential life for an undergraduate student.
So is the brick and mortar institution being given its due by people like Governor Jerry Brown?
Well, there are a lot of people, not just the governor. Although the governor, in fairness, he's not talking about eclipsing completely the physical campus. However, if we look at the undergraduate programs, it's a matter of academic principle. And for us, the value of the USC degree is that you have to be an undergraduate full-time student.
I want to read a quote from Mark Cuban, a high-tech guy who
Right.
now owns the San Antonio Spurs. He wrote in an essay, at some point potential students will realize that they can't flip their student loans for a job in 4 years. In fact, they will realize that college may be an option for fun and entertainment, but not for education. His argument is that the dynamic of going into debt, then paying it off with a job has changed.
Well, there is one thing here that I would like, it's very important for all of us to remember. There are 4,000 colleges and universities in the United States. I represent one of the top 50 research universities. And if you carefully look at the students that we graduate, they graduate with very little debt. And the great majority of them, less than 1.6%, do not default on their student loans. And we need to remember that.
We're with the president of the University of Southern California, the Honorable Max Nikias. We'll have more when we... Welcome back to News Conference. With us, the president of the University of Southern California, the Honorable Max Nikias, who's talking to us about the USC, the perspective between commencement and the start of classes in August, I assume.
Right. Mid-August, the students move back into the residential colleges. It's the beginning of our semester.
Big building boom. You have across the street off Jefferson, the
Right.
USC Village.
Right.
$600 million project. You can see the cranes now. When do you expect to cut the ribbon on that, and what is that going to do to the university?
Well, we expect it to be complete and cut the ribbon in August, September of 2017. So the class that is coming to study at USC in 2017, they're going to be able to move into the University Village.
How's this going to help?
Well, it's going to be very transformative, not just for the University of Southern California, but also for South Los Angeles. It's going to be a Tuscan village with collegiate Romanesque architecture. With a very beautiful Italian piazza in the middle. We're going to have retail, coffee shops, restaurants, a gym.
Open to the public.
It's going to be open to the public, to our neighbors, and we're going to be able to house 2,700 students in the residential colleges. And the looks of the University Village will give us 1,000 years of history we don't have.
Now, there were those at the time who were opposed to this because they believe that the university is now eating up property and homes for low-income minority working-class individuals who've lived there for a long time, that they're concerned about the gentrification of that neighborhood around your university. Respond to that.
Well, there is a misconception. The property where we're building the University Village has been owned by USC for several decades, so it's our property. We're not using any public money. It's our own money that we're using to build the University Village. And in addition to that, we offer a package of community benefits as a result of the project. $20 million, for example, the university contributed for affordable housing for our neighborhood.
Now that's under construction. The next thing is, and we're hearing all about now, your plan for a biotech corridor for East Los Angeles.
Right.
Based, I assume, near Keck Medical School, the County USC Medical Center.
That is correct. The biomedical technology park that we are proposing to build will be adjacent to our health sciences campus. Where is the campus? Where we have our hospitals, the Keck Hospital, the Norris Hospital, and of course the Keck School of Medicine and School of Pharmacy.
Let's talk about that. What's the need? What is the demand? Why do you want to go
Well,
forward with
biotech is going to be the fastest growing sector of our global economy in the next 20 to 30 years. And I'm very concerned that the city of Los Angeles is falling behind. For example, last year, there was an investment of more than $1 billion in the Bay Area for the biotech industry, and only $45 million in the city of Los Angeles. And yet, this is the area in LA where we graduate 5,000 scientists and engineers every year from our colleges and universities. No other region in the United States graduates as many scientists and engineers, and we no longer have the industry to absorb this human capital. And when they graduate, many of them, they move north to the Bay Area or they move south to San Diego.
Where's the money coming for this?
There are a lot of investors already lining up for the biotech park, and of course a number of developers. So I think, and by the way, also our supervisor, Hilda Solis, the county supervisor, and Councilman Jose Huizer are very supportive for this project. So we hope to work things out with the county very quickly in the near future and move forward with the project.
Is this transformative for Boyle Heights?
It will be transformative for East Los Angeles because having a biotech park creates a lot of opportunities for hiring, local hiring. For example, a lot of entry jobs like lab technicians, and there will be retail and also coffee shops and restaurants. We're already building a hotel in the piece of property that USC owns that will be part of the biotech
Is
park.
the biotech mission a cooperative with other institutions, Caltech, UCLA?
Caltech is going to be a partner in this effort, and also community colleges and the Cal State system, as well as the LA USD. Because a lot of our high school kids, they could get internship jobs during the summer with the companies that are going to have presence on the biotech
And
park.
you talked a little bit about community colleges. You've been a big supporter of private institutions taking more community college students. Why is that?
Conan, I'm very proud of the fact that the University of Southern California is the only one among the top 25 private research universities that enrolls every year graduates of community colleges. We have about 800 every year.
Why? Why is it so important?
Because these are kids that they come from very challenging socioeconomic conditions, and they did not have all the credentials needed at the age of 18 to get into USC, and we're giving them the opportunity now to come and get a USC degree. And what is really surprising is that they have exactly the same graduation rates as the rest of the students, 92%.
We're talking with the president of the University of Southern California, Max Nikias. We'll have a few more questions when we return. Welcome back to News Conference. With us, the Honorable Max Nikias, the president of the University of Southern California, taking a look at higher education during a summer break, kind of a summer break. One issue involves, on your campus particularly, safety. During your tenure, since 2010, there have been a couple of very unfortunate incidents. You had 2 Chinese foreign students, actually 3 in 2 separate occasions, who were murdered. First of all, what have you done to address the safety issue there? And has that impacted the university's outreach to China and to some of these other countries? Because you have, correct me if I'm wrong, you have more international students than just about any other university in the nation.
Right. Let me say first that my heart goes out to the parents of our students. They were members of our Trojan family. I will never forget the moment when my wife and I, we welcome in my office the parents of our 2 Chinese students in the first incident. What can you say to a parent? I'm a USC parent myself. And however, I must tell you that although these incidents were very tragic and kind of singular incidents, on the other hand, in terms of crime incidents at the University of Southern California, we don't even rank in the top 25 among all colleges and universities. We did a lot to beef up the security in our neighborhoods. The good news is that these tragic incidents did not affect our enrollment. USC is very popular in China. We have not seen any changes in the applicant pool or in our enrollment patterns over the years from China as a result of these incidents. And what we did in our neighborhood, today we have 192 security cameras installed. We have a lot of patrol cars. We have a partnership with LAPD. And in addition to that, what we introduced something new this year that I believe is very transformative. It has changed already the student behavior.
Which is?
We signed a partnership with Uber. And if you live in the USC neighborhood, which is from the USC campus north all the way very close to the 10, and west all the way to Normandy, if you live in that so-called bubble area outside of the USC campus, you can use Uber anywhere in that bubble and take you from one place to the other from 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. and USC pays for it.
Well, that sounds...
This is very transformative. We expect next year that there will be 650,000 rides. The students are using it.
What happens to the Coliseum now that you're running it completely?
Well, the Coliseum, we have a master lease for 98 years. We made a contractual commitment to the state of California that we're going to invest at least $75 million to upgrade the Coliseum. And already we have the plans that we're going to unveil sometime next year. And actually, given the fundraising that we have in place, the university is going to invest much more than $75 million upgrading the Coliseum.
Finally, you're an electrical engineer, PhD. You have patents that the Defense Department and NASA uses. You went from that to heading Viterbi School of Engineering,
right.
Provost,
right.
President. You still do seminars on Greek classics, correct?
Correct.
What is it about that, bastion of liberal education, helps navigate the job that you have today?
Well, I have to tell you, I'm a very passionate believer that there is so much timeless wisdom in the Greco-Roman classics that we ought to teach to our students, and that's why I, as president, I volunteer to teach freshmen seminars on Greco-Roman classics.
Who's your greatest figure from history that you try to emulate?
Oh, it's very dangerous for me to say that, but I always admired Themistocles of Athens in the Battle of Salamis, because that was the most decisive battle of Western civilization. If the Persians had won that battle, there would have been no golden age of Athens.
Right, and so you're fighting for the golden age of the University of Southern California.
Absolutely.
Max Nikias, the president of USC. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, my pleasure.
We'll have some final comments after this.